Every commercial that you watch, every scroll on Instagram, every visit to Amazon, every sports game, every Netflix binge, these are not just things that we do, they are shaping who we are. They are forming our desires. They're training us to long for certain things, success or admiration or escape, self-glory or comfort. We try to manage our behavior with external solutions. We set boundaries, we get accountability, we install filters, we tie strings around the box. We try really hard to be strong, and sometimes it works for a while. But the problem is, you can tie up the box, you can hide it on a shelf, you can throw it outside, and yet you can still love the things that are ruining you. You still love those cookies. And as long as that's true, eventually you'll go back for more, or you'll just go bake a cake like Toad to get your fix. And that's what James chapter 4 is all about. He's not just trying to get us to control our behavior, he's trying to help us kind of look underneath to the desires that drive us in life, to the loves that are shaping us, to the chaos that forms when we let our longings run wild. Because the Christian life is not about behavior modification or self-help therapy. That's not what being a Christian is about. It's about formation. It's about becoming new. And formation begins with love. So here's the question that James will help us wrestle with today. And the question is, what do I really love? What do I really love deep down inside? Because that is what is forming me. So we need to understand, what do I really love? So let's look at James chapter 4, starting at verse 1, where James says, what is the source of conflict among you? What is the source of your disputes? Now, James isn't wasting any time. He cuts right to the issue here. He says, why do people have so much conflict? Why is the world such a mess? Why do we experience so much tension internally and externally? And then he immediately gives us the answer. But the answer, it's not your personality type. It's not, you're having conflict in your life because you're in a stressful season of life or something. James doesn't blame the culture like we so often do. He says in verse 1, the second part of verse 1, he says, don't they come from your cravings that are at war in your own lives? Translation, he's saying the problem is your desires. What causes conflict in your life? Your desires is what's causing the conflict. Now, it's so profound. The fights, the breakdowns in relationships, the addictions, the moral confusion, the overflow of something within us. He calls it the desires that battle within. The Greek word there that's translated into that, the desires that battle within. The Greek word is hedonai. Hedonai. That sounds pretty similar because we get that word hedonism from that. So these are desires that are untethered from wisdom. And wanting things, sometimes wanting good things in ways that become destructive. Have you ever wondered why you keep falling for the same temptation over and over and over again? Man, why do I do that? Why, you try so hard to grow in an area only to just feel like you're back where you started just a little bit later. Why certain patterns in your life just won't break? Why do I keep doing this? So James is giving us a diagnosis here. He's saying it's not just your behavior, it's your desires. More specifically, it's disordered desires. Disordered desires. That's a key point there. You want something, and maybe it's not even bad to want that. It's not bad on its own, but that desire, it begins to grow, and it begins to take over in your life, and it becomes the ultimate desire, and it starts to push out wisdom. It starts to push out others, and it pushes out your peace. So that's why in verse 2 it says, you long for something you don't have, so you commit murder. You're jealous for something you can't get, and so you struggle and you fight, and you don't have because you don't ask. Now, real quickly here, when we look at that, you commit murder. Is James writing to Christians who are committing murder? Like, what? I don't think so. I don't think that's what he's saying. I think he's using the same logic that Jesus uses in the Sermon on the Mount when Jesus says, if you're angry at your brother or sister, then you are committing murder, because it's the same thing in God's eyes of how we view and treat other people. We devalue their humanity. So yeah, you may not physically kill someone, but your envy, your resentment, your anger, your lust, those unchecked desires are doing violence. And here's the consequence. In verse 3, James says, you ask and you don't have because you ask with evil intentions to waste it on your own cravings. In other words, what he's saying, because it was that when he's talking about asking, he's saying your prayer life is revealing your heart. What are you praying for? Because that reveals your heart so much. When you pray and ask God for things, are you coming to God in prayer because you want to be with God in prayer, or because you want the things that he will give you? Do you want wisdom, which is, as we've talked about throughout the weeks, wisdom is the ability to see your life the way God sees it and to live accordingly? Or do you just want relief in your life, and that's why you come to God in prayer? Do you want transformation, or do you just want to stop feeling guilty? You know, in the 4th century, a man by the name of Augustine of Hippo, some people call him Saint Augustine, he reflected on sin and this concept that James is laying out here. And his writings help us understand kind of what's going on here with James. And so one of the things he says that sin isn't usually about loving bad things. It's about loving good things out of order, disordered loves. God created us with desires in life. That's not the problem. Having desires is not the problem. The problem is when those desires get disoriented or disordered or deformed. That's when it becomes a problem. You love success. Like, who doesn't like to succeed at things? Nobody. We all love success. That's not wrong. But when your love for success is greater than your love for faithfulness, you'll end up compromising your character to get ahead. That becomes a problem. If you have a family, we love our family, right? As we should. God created us to love our family, of course. But when you love your children more than you love God, you'll probably avoid the hard conversations with them or let their schedules become your functional religion and overtake the family. You love rest. Like, I love to rest. Yesterday, I did not get out of my pajamas. I haven't done that for years. I can't remember last time that happened. And so, rest is fun. And so we love rest. God designed a Sabbath for us to rest, so that it's designed by God. But when rest turns into escape and laziness and neglecting your calling and numbing your soul, that's a problem then. We're taking a good thing and turning it bad. We love beauty in the world and the pleasure of sex as well. And God created us to enjoy it. It's a good thing. But when the pursuit of that pleasure exceeds the bounds of marriage, and when it becomes self-focused, you fall into pornography and lustful thoughts and adultery. And that's a problem. So Augustine puts it this way. He says, a just and holy life requires that we love things in the right order. The order of what is most important in our life matters greatly. It's not just, I like this thing and that's a good thing, so it's right? Well, is it in the right order in your life? Because sin, for Augustine, is misdirected worship. Disordered loves turn desires into idols. What do I mean by that? We never stop worshiping. Other philosophers have talked about this, that all humans worship something. We're creatures that worship. We never stop worshiping. We just maybe we start worshiping the wrong things that can't love us back. And so fast forward in history from Augustine to modern day, James K.A. Smith, professor of philosophy at Calvin College, he picks up on this Augustinian thread and he brings it into the modern world. And so he writes, basically, his famous line is, you are what you love. You are what you love, but, he warns, you might not love what you think you love. You are what you love, but if you think about it, he says, you might not love what you think you love. You might be surprised. So in other words, your deepest loves are not necessarily revealed by your statement of faith, or even by what you believe. Hey, what do you believe? Oh, I believe these things. Okay, but is that what you love most? We would like to say yes, but is that actually true? The reality is your deepest loves are best revealed by your habits, by your routines, your default settings, by your finances even. So what do you daydream about when you get bored? When your mind can wander, where does your mind wander to? What do you instinctively turn to when you're anxious or discouraged? Because those are the things that you believe will actually bring you comfort, whether you actually admit that or not. What do you spend your money on most easily? Some things to drop $100. You're like, I don't want to spend $100 on that, but I guess I have to. And sometimes it's like, yeah, that's worth it. I need that. What is it? What do you spend your money most easily on? What makes you feel most alive or most afraid to lose? How you answer those questions will maybe better reflect and show you what you love. Because that's what you really love. That's your functional God or your idol, honestly. And so here's the problem. You didn't necessarily decide to love those things. You may realize like, oh man, I didn't realize I'm valuing these things more than I should be. You didn't decide to do that, but you were formed to love them. Formations. So Smith says that your habits are little liturgies, basically. Every commercial that you watch, every scroll on Instagram, every visit to Amazon, every sports game, every Netflix binge, these are not just things that we do, they are shaping who we are. And once again, everything I just listed, those things are all good in their proper place, proper order. So I'm not saying you never watch Netflix, never shop on Amazon. I'm not saying that, but we can easily let those things overtake our lives. They are forming our desires. They're training us to long for certain things, success or admiration or escape, self-glory or comfort.